My gosh, it feels like, I don't know, that happened so fast. For me, the day went by really fast. I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but for me, it certainly was. Thanks for sticking with us this whole time. I hope you're getting lots of ideas, lots of information. So this final session is called Best Practices for Preventing Conflict and Building Collaborative Workplaces. And there's a lot of things that we've been doing throughout the day. Thanks, Karen. Karen says the day has been great. A lot of things we've been doing throughout the day that are some ideas, some best practices. You've heard a lot of them already. You've heard some from Wendy, you've heard some from Deborah, and you've heard some from Stephen. So, and you've heard some from each other. And we've got, thanks Tracy, and all great speakers, thank you. And so we're also still creating that Google Doc. If you remember, it's, see if I can remember it, bit.ly, so bit.ly/2-BCW conf, so Building Collaborative Workplace conf. So you can still go and add, you know, something that's worked for you and your team in terms of supporting your collaboration in the last couple of months. So I'm going to move us right into, Heather, would you pop that or someone maybe pop that address in the chat for me? Debbie's asking for that. Hi, Debbie. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share just a few ideas. One thing that we're going to do during this session is do a couple of different things, a couple of new things. So I'm going to share a little bit, but we're also going to have a panel. So we'll see how that goes. When you use Zoom webinars, it's easier because you can have the panel. Those are the only faces that you see. But we're using Zoom meetings because I wanted to be able to use the breakout rooms and do some of the other sort of engagement activities. And so I think what we're probably going to try to do is just put a spotlight as each panelist speaks. But I'm going to share a little bit first. We're going to do a breakout first, and then we'll hear from the panel. So I just wanted to really quickly introduce, Wendy talked about, introduce the idea that, you know, collaboration isn't always the thing that we want to do. There are times when collaboration is not appropriate. And in fact, there are what I call consider to be 5 basic problem-solving styles. And they are compete, so that's sort of a my way or the highway. Avoid, which is like, I'm not even returning your calls, la la la, I don't want to get involved. Accommodate, which is whatever you want, that's what we'll do. So you're doing whatever the other person wants to do. Compromise, which I think is a lot of the times what we do and we call collaboration, but compromise is really, we can live with it. I sort of get my needs met, you sort of get your needs met. Maybe neither one of us is completely happy, but we can live with it. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. And then collaboration. And so Deborah had talked about looking for her own definition of collaboration. And I loved, you know, what she talked about in terms of, it's not assembly. It's not, you know, you do your piece and I do mine, and then we squish them together. It really is about, let's come together. Let's have the discussion. Let's find solutions. If it's about problem solving, let's find solutions that meets everyone's needs. And I think a lot of the times people think, well, that's not possible. And sometimes I would say it's not appropriate, right? So Wendy gave a great example of, you know, I think that probably public health did do some collaboration in terms of bringing together maybe some departments or whatever, but they still did, they couldn't collaborate with everyone, right? So they had to still, sorry, I'm admitting people, including Heather, to the from the waiting room. So they still had to do a little collaboration, but they still had to do some compete as well, right? Where they had to say, you know, here's what we're doing. It's an emergency, right? So that's a really great example of when collaboration might not be appropriate. So, sorry, I'm just making Heather a co-host here so she can help me out when she gets it's back in. So those are 5 styles of problem solving, and it does depend, you know, what's going on, which one is most appropriate. And so the message I want you to have is that there is no one style that's right or wrong. Like they're all right at certain times. They all have their different uses. They're all appropriate in different situations. And I think, you know, one of the tricky things is to figure out what is the most appropriate one to use in each situation. You know, Wendy talked about the house is on fire, you know, like that, you know, that emergency sort of thing is definitely that time when maybe compete is the right process to use. One thing that I would say is that when you want people to feel engaged, when you want people to feel heard and like they have a voice and like they can show up at work, you know, being valued for who they are and the contribution that they make, I would say those are times when you do want to be looking at collaboration. And I would say, in my estimation, a healthy workplace will probably use all 5 at appropriate times. But you know, again, when people feel connected, when they feel heard, when they feel appreciated, and when their values align with the work as well as how the work is being done, they're going to be more engaged and successful in their work. And Wendy talked about trust there as well. When there's trust, they're going to be more engaged and successful as well. And I would say that using collaboration consistently, when appropriate, is what's going to be most likely to give a workplace that result. If you were to consistently use compete, you're probably not going to have people feeling heard and appreciated and connected. If you are going to use avoid most of the time, you know, definitely people are not going to feel heard or connected or appreciated. You know, compromise, yes, sometimes that's absolutely a useful process or a useful style to use especially when we don't have a lot of time. But you know, over the course of time, you're never fully getting your needs met, right? So you're never fully, maybe your values are never fully being connected with the work and how it's done, and maybe you're just having to live with it. And again, sometimes that's perfect. That's exactly what you need. But if that's all you do, you're probably going to find people disengaged. So over the balance of time, my focus for having the kind of workplace where people are connected, feel heard, feeling appreciated and valued for their contribution, collaboration is where you want to land most of the time. So I'm going to send you off into some breakouts here. So here's what I want to suggest. If you have printed the worksheet that Carly sent out a couple of days ago on Monday, you'll find these questions in the worksheet. If not, and you have your camera handy there, maybe take a quick snap of these questions, because this is what I'm going to send you off into your breakout groups to do. So what does a collaborative workplace look like in your experience? And what is the impact if you don't have a collaborative workplace? So I'll give you just a second to take a snap of that. So what does a collaborative workplace look like in your experience? And what is the impact if you don't have a collaborative workplace? So I'm going to stop my share there now, and I'm going to send you all into breakout groups. So these will be new breakout groups. And I know sometimes they get a little lopsided just because we have some teams that are working on their own. I'll try to look and maybe I'll actually make these just slightly bigger just to see there. So I'm going to send you off for probably just 5 minutes for this conversation. And then what I'll be looking for is for you to type some of your highlights of your conversation in the chat. So again, you'll see the 60-second warning, stay in your group, finish your conversation, let the system bring you back. All right, there you are. So for anyone who has just joined, we are in breakout rooms, and I just did pop you into some if you want to join them. We're at the halfway mark for the breakout rooms. So just sent the 60-second warning to the breakout groups. Okay, so we are back. So I'd love to hear what some of the responses were. So if you would just type a few words in the chat about what does a collaborative workplace look like in your experience? Can we get some, I don't know where my chat's gone. Oh, feel trusted to share all ideas. Feel happy working employees, open to other opinions, good communication. Employees feel valued, multidisciplinary, open to new ideas. People are welcomed. Everyone gets to share, feel heard, ask a friend what they think, bounce ideas, value differences. Yes, transparent, flexible, appreciated. Everyone's positive and open. Voices, all voices are heard and diverse experiences valued. Yes, drawing on the expertise of others. Retention of staff, absolutely. Heard without judgment. Desired results are being achieved. Open, respectful dialogue amongst teams. Respect for each other. They're going fast, so I know I'm going to miss some people. People feel connected. That's a big one. I'm going to talk about that. Discussion from starting point. That's great. Create a problem, multiple ways to communicate. Teamwork. Awesome. Love it. Turnover, huge impact. People shut down. Valuable ideas are lost. Yes, poor communication, no communication. Duplication of efforts. Yeah, that's great. More sick time, cranky employees, lack of interest, silos. Yeah. Burnout, big one. And in fact, burnout is now considered to be like it's been named as a disorder by the World Health Association. It's that prevalent now. Less optimal solutions, employees not feeling valued, retention challenges. Yeah, that's great. Disengaged. Sometimes you think you're collaborating, instead you're compromising, absolutely, due to lack of time or skills. I agree, absolutely. We're not necessarily taught how to collaborate. Yes, so no one wants to be at work, less focus on the work. One of the things that Wendy mentioned earlier was that you lose some of the discretionary effort, right? So this sort of like, I love my work, I'm excited, I want to just be even better. So absolutely, thank you for that. Suspicion is the last one I saw pop up there. So I just want to share, I'm going to share my screen again. I don't know why I think I've got, oh, that's it, I'm hiding. I'm going to share my screen again and just going to share a little bit about what I consider to be some of the foundations of a collaborative workplace. There are others, you know, like, and we could add to this list, but these are some of the ones that I identified when I was creating. We have a course that's also being supported by the grant from the grant program from the Workers' Compensation Board of PEI. Thank you so much. We've had a number of not-for-profit organizations participate in that over the winter. And so these were some of the foundations. These were the 3 foundations that I focused on, and we did some work around and tested some best behaviors around. I think that it's very difficult to have a collaborative workplace if the individual members are not supported or don't, the health of the individual team members are not supported. So healthy individuals, and someone talked about burnout, you know, it's a real thing and it's a real concern. And so there's a lot of things we can do to support individual team members, because you can't bring, you know, you can't have healthy collaboration if the individual people sitting around that table are not, their own health is not being supported. So that's the first. The other piece is around relationships, and I focus, you know, a lot of my training around relationships, good relationships, and I believe that it's impossible to have good solutions unless you have good relationships. And so, you know, when you are in a workplace and you are, you know, working together with team members towards good solutions, you really do have to have those good relationships in order to optimize. You know, can you have solutions? Can you move forward if you don't have good relationships? Yes, sure. But it's just so much easier and so much more pleasant and so much more engaging when you can have those good relationships. And there's so much research around this, you know, around having actual friends at work increases your productivity, increases your engagement, it increases the success. When people feel like they are included and they can show up as themselves and they can be valued for their contribution and they have those good relationships. So I say intentional effort to build and maintain good relationships is a huge foundation of collaborative workplace. And then the third one I have is around culture. So a culture of collaboration and having that actually intentionally built into the workplace culture through policies and practices. So that is all I'm going to share. Some pretty quick thoughts of my own. What I want to do now, I mentioned that there was a course that I created with support from the grant from Workers' Comp, and that course was 6 sessions. It was online. We did it over the winter. You can imagine COVID sort of messed with us a little bit there as well, even though we were online. But what I've asked is to have some of the participants in those 2 courses that I ran to participate in a panel of sorts. So I'm going to actually have them share what were one or two best practices that they tested and the impact for their organization in terms of moving towards more collaborative workplace. So the first, I'm going to ask Heather for her help. I don't know, Heather, if you have found Kim Donnelly and Helena Reeves from Stars for Life.
I believe they're up.
Excellent. So you've got them spotlighted. That's fantastic. So I'm going to hand it off to Kim and Helena to share what did the two of you, or what did your organization test?
Okay, I'll go first. So after the three things you just mentioned earlier about what does a collaborative workplace look like, we really kind of sat down and kind of chatted about it and thought about it, and we came up with the idea to develop a kind of a wellness committee. So the management team sat on it, and we handpicked 5 staff to participate as well, staff that we knew would contribute and would also kind of act as liaisons between the other staff to tell us what, staff we're looking for.
And also made sure that we picked at least one staff member who we might have had some conflict with before and who felt that collaboration was lacking, to make sure we included her.
Yes. So some of the things that the committee came up with was we implemented a monthly healthy potluck. Now we're having barbecue Friday. We would have like fitness challenges. I think we had a squat challenge.
Squats, we have jumping jacks. I think when COVID hit, the plan was the next one was going to be a plank challenge. Little fun things.
Also, we had charts to encourage the appropriate amount of water intake for each day by the water cooler. Purchase water coolers for all the different areas, locations. What else did we do? Oh, the positivity board. We created a positivity board where people can write, like, whether it's a nice comment about another staff member or just a nice quote. We also, in February, we did a Valentine Alley where down the hallway everyone had their own card pasted, and all staff and clients would write something nice about you or something they appreciated about you.
And another thing we got the committee to do was, because in our field with staff working one-to-one with clients, they don't really get a lunch break. They get paid, they're paid for the whole day. You stay with your clients and you eat with your clients. And we felt that it was important for staff to get out and have, even if it was just half an hour of a lunch break one day a week, that they really had their time on their own. That's something we wanted to implement a long time ago, but we didn't have the time to schedule it all. So we put that on the committee, and they were really happy to do it and got it done right away. So they took care of that and made sure everyone got out for their lunch break, and that was that really made a big difference. You could really see that everyone was looking forward to it and the day they were going and to use that time.
And so something else we did since COVID, and since we come back from COVID, we've implemented a COVID committee. So there's a staff representation there that will kind of meet with us, and we'll explain, what we're doing, all the precautions that we're taking, and then that staff member will then kind of talk to the staff and see if there's any concerns that they have that they feel are not being met, and just kind of make sure that we're all kind of on the same page.
Oh my gosh, you really are stars. That's fantastic. I'm just so excited to hear all the things that you're doing, and you really incorporate. Yay! you really did incorporate, the taking care of individuals and also the relationships as well as the culture too. So
there's one more
that's
thing I have to add. Just the other day, we had a staff member that we noticed maybe wasn't herself since she's come back, and we had an opportunity to take her in and just chat with her. And we did talk about burnout, and we told her how important it is. If that is something she feels like she may be dealing with, she needs to chat with us, and we could maybe work towards shifting her job a bit, or maybe a different client, just to make her aware that it is a possibility and it is a thing, and we're here to kind of support her with that.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much to the two of you for sharing that and for all those great ideas. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I'm going to move us on to Eliza McLaughlin. So Eliza participated in the course, and Eliza's with Community Legal Information PEI, and she is spotlighted. Way to go, Heather.
Thank you. Yeah, so I took the course back starting in January, I believe, early February, into April, and so that was kind of when COVID hit, and we then started taking it on working from home. So definitely one of the kind of benefits and just general best practices was the information that was being shared throughout. Being able to take the information that Kirstin shared with us and bringing that back to our team really just helped us to kind of start the conversation, whether it was on burnout or, you know, conflict, whatever it was. That kind of just helped kind of set the standard about what we would be talking about. It was also beneficial because myself, my boss, Alan Mullally, who's the executive director, and myself, who staff, both participated. And so the information being shared wasn't kind of necessarily coming just from a top-down approach. I was also participating in that and sharing that, and kind of could show the benefits also for other colleagues to get to kind of go along with the information we were sharing.
I love that you highlighted that, because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really love that you highlighted that, because one of the things that I wanted to do was set it up so that it would be a management and staff doing it together, so that it wasn't that top down. So I'm really pleased to hear that that was a benefit. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that worked really well. And going off that, there was various kind of best practices that were suggested. Some of them weren't going to really work for our team just because of, you know, challenges with clients, or, you know, people wanting to have the lunch break to themselves kind of thing, rather than maybe an active lunch break. But what we did implement was a thumbs up board or a high five board. And we did that at the end of February. The idea was just to kind of acknowledge when folks are doing, you know, things well, whether it's something small, something big, something part of their job, or something that they just took upon themselves to do. And so there was a lot of benefits from that. People definitely felt appreciated when they kind of had their name up on there. And we originally did it in our office, and we're just in a small one-room office, so that worked well. People could kind of see when they had something up on the board. But then COVID hit, and so we ended up taking that online. And we've been using an online platform to share information through, it's called Slack. And one of the channels we ended up creating was the thumbs up board to kind of continue that on. And yeah, it's been really great that we could take that from the in-office to the online format, even when everything else has changed.
I love that. So I'm on Slack with another group, and we have a channel called Wins, right? So, and you get notifications, like there's someone has posted something in the thumbs up group, and you go right there, and it's like immediate gratification. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Eliza. I really appreciate that. Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
What kind of impact do you think, having started that and then being able to take it into online, what sort of impact did that have for your team once COVID hit?
For sure. I think because we're all working from separate places now, and, you know, we're having weekly team meetings, but otherwise aren't really connecting as fully as we were before. We went from one room office to kind of all these different spaces. So having that, you know, someone came and reorganized the office so they could be acknowledged for that work they did, which otherwise might not have gone as noticed, I think. So yeah, being able to value the team.
That's cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to call next on Caroline Davison. So Caroline is with the PEI Human Rights Commission, and she participated in the program with Laura Bird, and the two of them are coordinating a new project for human rights around sexual harassment in the workplace. So
okay.
Thanks, Caroline.
Hi. Thanks, Kirstin. I just want to start by saying that Kirstin mentioned that my project manager, Laura, and I are coordinating this new 5-year workplace sexual harassment project, and we have developed a resource for employers that Kirstin has been so kind to say that she will circulate to everybody following this, and it's to help people develop policies and procedures with special consideration to sexual harassment. So just like the other two people that have spoken, I took Kirstin's collaborative training over the winter. And my team, we did try out some of the best practices here and there, but what actually ended up being most useful for us was this 2-hour exercise that Kirstin taught us how to lead. And this kind of came near the end of the course. So we had already shared a lot of our learnings with the rest of the team. So everybody was familiar with the idea of collaboration and what that meant. So the purpose of this exercise was for us to get together and to formalize a set of agreements that as a team we could use to build and maintain a collaborative workplace. So one big piece of this was that we really took a lot of time to share our individual workplace needs and interests. And so the things that were important to each of us in a workplace. And I found that people were very honest with this process. And I learned a lot about my coworkers during this. But what stood out the most throughout this was that each of us identified that we really care about the work we do, and we're very passionate about ensuring that Islanders have their human rights met, and that, you know, people know about their rights and responsibilities. So I think kind of at the end of the day, what all of this accomplished was that it helped us shift our team perspective to one that is first and foremost focused on our collective goals. And because of that focus as a starting point, we've been more willing to, you know, talk about, how we can work together effectively to reach that goal. And, you know, part of that is understanding and respecting that we're all different, and we each have something different to contribute to the team. Something, just an example of something that we did recently is we each took a workplace personality assessment. It's the DISC assessment for anyone who's interested. And we plan to, at some point, meet together to share our results to help us better understand our individual work styles and how we can continue working better as a team. So that was really, I think, what we took away. And I think, you know, the biggest thing for us is intentionally making a point to understand each other. Since COVID-19 happened, we've been having weekly staff meetings. And at the start of those meetings, we've all really intentionally, you know, taken time to ask each other, how are you doing? And just to touch base, we've done a couple of virtual hangouts. So we had a workplace lunch one day over Zoom that, you know, even though it was awkward, we're all kind of eating together on camera. I think everybody really enjoyed it and appreciated the time to connect. But I think this is really just the beginning of, you know, the conversation for the Human Rights Commission. And I'm really hopeful that our organization will continue on this journey of becoming more collaborative.
Awesome. Thank you. Someone just asked, they missed it was the DISC assessment that you did, right?
Yes, yeah.
Which in fact, Deborah is an assessor of. If anyone's looking for someone to maybe do some online DISC assessment, Deborah is an assessor of that. And Wendy is a certified assessor for, is it Insights, Wendy? Yeah, and yeah, so there's a number of things. So I love that. And, you know, both you and Eliza talked about, and I imagine this happened at Stars for Life as well, that you talked about, and yes, thank you, Wendy. I'm a certified Myers-Briggs assessor. Yes. So many options. But you both talked about sharing the information with your team, and I'm glad you highlighted that, because that's part of the program. I said, you know, like two people, like a manager, staff, take it together. Although we had some, like in Stars for Life, Kim and Helena and Ron took the program together. I had given participants things each session that they could then share with their team. So maybe it was a video, maybe it was a PDF, like with a little information or whatever. So yeah, so there was ways to engage the rest of the team as well. And I'm really glad you also shared that process, because it was a bit of a pilot for me. I'm used to facilitating groups, right? So I will go into the workplace and facilitate that process for you. And so part of what participants were doing was actually piloting with me. Can I send you off to do that on your own? So it was almost a little bit of a train the trainer sort of piece, or a train the facilitator sort of thing. So I'm really so excited that it worked well for your team.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Caroline. And so the last person that we have is Tanya Nace, and Tanya is we've heard from Tanya already earlier. Thank you, Tanya. She's the ED of World Hope International. So Tanya and her team were part of just the second group that just finished.
We just finished, literally.
Yeah, like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So we were super lucky to start this, the week before COVID quarantine hit. So that was real exciting. Kirstin walked us through, trauma and loss and grief and everything else on top of the actual course, we're very thankful for that, Kirstin. But because of that, we were able to kind of talk really quickly about how are we doing? How are you feeling? What's our wellness factor like? Like that was an immediate, upfront conversation, which COVID forced that. So we immediately implemented, and we're a small team in the Maritimes, all distributed. So we already work online. We immediately begin to do COVID-19 sucks Fridays. So we basically, I gave my staff Fridays off randomly, and I tried to pick the long weekends so they get extra long weekends, just to tell them to go hang out, rest. Like, I don't know if you guys were as exhausted as we were from the shock of COVID, but we were just so tired. And I just said, take the day off. Like, it's paid, go hang out with your family or do something. But COVID sucks, so go take the Friday off. And it was just really, really good. I'm going to do another one in the next couple weeks. And it's just so nice to say, good work. We're working through really tough stuff. We're a nonprofit in a hard time. Good job. Like, go do something fun. It's worth it. So that was one thing that really helped. And this course was a good part of that. We do a high five board as well, but we decided to put it into a Zoom message where everyone's in the same message. So that's where you go in and hold your coffee in the morning and say, morning, or good work on that phone call, or that was a great meeting, or I just had a really good client call, or I just did a great fundraiser or whatever. And we just kind of keep that rolling. So Kirstin, we started that from this course, which was good. And then communication is one thing that came up that we're working really hard on. I've been doing a lot of handwritten notes to my team so they can get actual mail. So we just did a huge fundraiser. They worked so hard. So I just put some cards in the mail yesterday. Just like, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Just individual to their home so that they can get them and be encouraged. And then I've been sharing a lot of emails that I've been sending to our board, because I'm keeping the board very update more than normal. And I've just been copying them in and just saying, everyone cares about what's going on. I'm sharing everything with all of you. So it's super high visibility, and I want them to know that they're a part of this and that matters. And then the 2-hour workshop, which Caroline mentioned, we're planning on doing that as soon as the borders open. So that's going to be kind of our excitement to get together in person and then do that activity together. So we're working on doing that, and we're excited to make that happen as well. So those are a few things. Oh, the last thing was a strategic plan. With the high fives, we're doing a strategic plan, 6-month overview. We go by the calendar year. So we're going to do a meeting where we're going to high five everybody for how much we've done on the strategic plan and then who accomplished what. So we have it all written out. We follow it anyways, but we're actually going to take time to encourage each other and affirm each person who made all the things happen so far this year for our 6-month review for that. So we're going to do that just to be a little extra encouraged in this crazy time. So those are some of our ideas.
I love that. And I love that you're wearing your shirt that says World Hope International. So then everybody knows who you are and where you're from. And congratulations on your amazing gala. And, Wendy was talking about sort of noticing what are some of the silver linings for COVID. And I think one for you guys has been, you were able to attract some people to your annual gala that wouldn't have come and ended up giving you a ton of money. And so, so very cool. Congratulations.
Fun. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just gonna share maybe one of my own tips, and I called this thank you to all the panelists. Very much appreciate that. I should say before I share my own tip that I am going to be offering a third and final opportunity for PEI not-for-profits to participate in this program. We're starting on June 25th. I never do anything in the summer. Like it's just such a weird year, isn't it? So I'm going to do this in the summer, and I hope that there are some PEI not-for-profits. I've already heard from some that have an interest. And so I am going to, Carly's going to send an email. Look in your inbox. If you haven't been getting our emails, you probably have because you're all here. But check your spam and mark not spam so that you get all the follow-up. So I'm going to, so I'll let you know that. So there, I just spotlighted myself. So so you'll get some information about that. There's a small cost, but it's highly subsidized by the grant that we have from the grant program of the workers' comp. So thank you again for that and making it possible for PEI not-for-profits to have this opportunity. And I do some of that, of course, customized with teams as well. So if that's something you're interested in, we'll probably send some information about that next week, maybe, once we get you all the information, all the follow-up stuff from the conference. I do want to say, you know, like I said, I named this best practices for preventing conflict and building collaborative workplaces. And my top tip for creating a collaborative workplace is also my top tip for conflict prevention. And it really is something that a lot of people, a lot of the panelists already talked about, and that is bringing your team together to have conversation, and in particular, to have conversation about something that Wendy mentioned, which is getting really clear on expectations. That is by far my top tip for preventing conflict, is getting really clear on expectations, really clear on what are our needs in terms of working together, and what agreements can we make about how to work together in a way that we're all getting our needs met. And most organizations that I do work with don't do that, because we're so busy, right? And we have so much on our plates that we're just trying to get the work done. And sometimes what we let go and let fall off the side are the relationships, the focus on individuals, and in particular, you know, just really having those conversations that help us to identify, you know, how do we want to work together? What agreements do we want to have? And, you know, Tanya said that that they come together, you know, regularly to check in on their strategic plan. That's another thing I would do with this. You don't just have that agreement once or have that conversation once. You regularly check in on how are we doing? How are we working together? How are we doing with the agreements that we had about how we want to work together? What are the needs that we each have? Have they changed since we met last time? If you were a team that were having had that conversation before COVID, having it again after COVID would be important, right? Because things have changed. So what are the different needs, and how do you meet those? So getting really clear on expectations, on how you want to work together before there's conflict, is my absolute top tip for preventing conflict and moving towards collaborative workplace. So we're getting close to the end of our day. I can't even believe it. We're half an hour away from finishing up, and I've got some activities that I want to do to move us towards wrapping up. I want to just say that top tip that I just shared, that's exactly what happens in the process that Caroline talked about, that couple of hours where they sat down together and looked at what are our needs and how do we want to work together to meet them. That's actually the process that Caroline talked about, and it's part of the course. So you'll get information about that. Those of you that are with PEI not-for-profits, you'll get some information about that in the email I think Carly's sending out just after we finish today. So I want to move us towards our wrap up. So we've got about a half an hour left. And I have to say I'm very impressed. It's like 3:30. We're like exactly on time. I'm gonna give myself a little high five. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take 60 seconds, and I want you to actually get up out of your chair, and I want you to find one object that symbolizes a takeaway for you from the day. So for instance, something on my desk here is this Vogue optical lens cleaner, right? So I might pick that up and I might say, for me, this symbolizes clarity around how to move forward towards, you know, building a more collaborative workplace or whatever. You can be a little, you can be better at that than I can, than I did there with my example. But what I want you to do is just find an object somewhere within your space that symbolizes a big takeaway for you from the day. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to put you into some breakout rooms to share that. So you got 60 seconds to find something in your space. Five seconds left. And we're done. So I'm going to send you off into some breakout rooms. Just going to give you 5 minutes. I know the breakout rooms has been sort of wonky because we don't know who's joining in and who's with their team. So some of you have 2 people, some of you have 5 people, but it is what it is. So what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to pop you into the breakout rooms. Going to give you 5 minutes. Just take a second to introduce yourselves, but also then just 1 minute to share your object and what the big takeaway was for you that object represents. But I also want you to talk about one action that you're going to take in the next 2 weeks to implement the learning from today. So you're going to share your object and what the takeaway is that it represents. And I want you to share one action that you're going to take in the next 2 weeks to implement the learning. So I am going to open up the rooms. Again, don't come back at the 60 seconds. Just let the system bring you back. So I'm going to give the 60-second warning to the breakout rooms. So we're coming back in about 5 seconds. Okay, everybody's back, I think. And so you'll notice that Heather has shared her screen and we have a new Google Doc. And you probably know the drill by now, but what I'd like you to do is go to that sort of minimize your Zoom screen and pop in that the URL that Heather just highlighted, and start giving me some of your ideas. So what's your big takeaway? What's one action you'll take? Don't worry about matching up your takeaway to the action on the other side. Just find a blank space and start typing. And I'll just probably just give you like 3 or 4 minutes to do that. I'm always so amused. Anonymous skunk, anonymous hamster. We have an anonymous bat. Ooh. So the link, Heather, Heather Morrison, we can't share the link. That's disabled just for security. So if the link is right there on top of the page. So you'll just actually have to type that in. It's actually also up in the top right-hand corner. It's the name of the document as well. So it's bit.ly, so bit.ly/4-bcwconf. So for security, we have removed the sharing of links in the chat, just in case there was somebody in here who decided they wanted to give us some malware or something. So big takeaway: listen more, take intentional time to meet with the team and build trust and collaborate. Use proper communication. Nikki is saying the links still work if you copy and paste. I haven't been able to copy and paste, but we could give that a go. Heather, if you want, if you want to put that, see if you can pop it in the chat. I don't know if that'll work or not, but I hope it won't, because that means the security failed. But anyway. So one action I'll take: connect with someone intentionally that I haven't had a chance to connect with lately, set up a date and prepare my team for this, set good expectations and excitement for this positive moving forward. That's awesome. Share the course details. Awesome. Love it. Look into a high five board. That's great. That's super easy. It's really just, get a big poster board or like piece of like one of those big sticky boards and put some sticky notes and markers somewhere, beside it, and just write high five and like tell your team every time they pass by, if they, to congratulate someone, give them a high five. Or if you're not in your workplace, doing something like, who was it that did the high five? Oh, community legal information. Like maybe you set it up on a Slack channel, or that's great. I can't scroll down. I wonder, Heather, would you scroll down for me so I can see a few more of the comments? I don't know if you can or not. I'm not able to do it because it's your screen. So I won't worry about it, but I'll give people another couple of minutes to add in their big takeaways and the actions they're going to take. We're seeing the same ones here, but I think it's just, thanks, Rhonda. I think it's that Heather needs to scroll down. I'm not in the document. I guess I could go in the document and then I could scroll down.
I am scrolling.
Oh, but it's not moving down. So we are going to share this with you after, so you're going to have an opportunity to see this. We will we'll take it away, we'll tidy it up, and this will be part of some of the report that you get from our day together. Are people still able to? Oh, I think you're going to stop sharing and then share it again. Is that, or something's going on? Probably the people that are in the document are able to go ahead and continue to type, so that's fine. That's good. So keep doing that. Like I said, we'll share the results with you after the conference. So what I want to do now, really just moving towards wrapping up, I want to do an evaluation poll. So so Heather, if you are you able to share our final evaluation poll? I wonder if we've lost Heather. I'll do it. There you go. So I've just, so I'm going to launch the poll. Looking just really one question. Yes, sort of, or no, or the answers. The ideas and information gained today will positively impact my ability to contribute to a healthy and collaborative workplace. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and tell me yes, no, or sort of, and that will be our evaluation for the day. But I'm also happy to have any feedback that you want to send at any time. Really pleased that we had so many people here. And while people are filling that out, I'll just make an announcement that the glitch that we had this morning, where a number of people were unable to join us until the start of the second session. I've talked to Stephen, and I know a lot of people really wanted to see Stephen's session. So I've talked to Stephen, and he has agreed to do a second session. So we're actually going to do another session with Stephen. It's just going to be an hour and a half. So we're actually going to have a little extra time with Stephen than we would have this morning. So feel free to join again if you want. If you're like, I want more Stephen, feel free to join again. We're going to do that next week on Thursday the 18th from 10:30 to 12. We will send out the information. He's going to just do a reprisal of his presentation around the new regulations. You're going to have a little extra time to ask him questions, and so feel free, even if you did, if you were able to join us today, feel free to jump in and join us for that as well. So we will be sending out information about how to do that. So it'll again be Thursday, June 18th from 10:30 to 12. That's Atlantic Standard Time for anybody that is not tuning in from PEI. Okay, so I think that, did everybody have a chance to do the poll that wanted to do the poll? So I am going to give you another 3 seconds, and then I'm going to close the poll. All right. So looks like most of you said yes. Few of you had sort of. You've got a few things to take away. So that is great. That, to me, that's a wonderful result. So I appreciate that. And so we're in our last few minutes wrapping up. So I really just want to say thank you to a lot of people. I want to say thank you to Stephen and Deborah and Wendy for coming and sharing their knowledge, their insight around building collaborative and psychologically safe workplaces. I want to thank the panelists who came, those participants in the course, and shared some of their best practices. I want to thank Heather and Carly for being here and helping me to put together the day and being a support during the day. And I absolutely want to thank Workers' Compensation Board for providing the grant that made today and the course that I've mentioned possible. And I want to thank all of you for participating. It's been a real, a whirlwind of a day, super fast. And so just want to thank you for sticking with us. Technology is always, can be tricky sometimes, and just thank you for your patience. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your engagement. Make sure that you check your spam to make sure that any of the follow-up stuff isn't going into your spam. If you've been participating as a team, I've created a little process that you can use to debrief the day and think about how you want to move forward with the learnings. So we'll send that out as well. So we have 10 minutes left, and I see some people are signing off saying thank you, but I'd love to open it up if there's any questions that anyone has. So thank you. Seeing some people comment, awesome day, great info. Maybe a full day online is challenging. Oh, that's nice, Pam Laird. Great day, Kirstin. You never disappoint. Awesome, thank you. Anybody have any questions that they want me to answer, or any comments that they want to make? Any reflections as we close out our day? CMHA staff says thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Fantastic day. Grateful for the opportunity. Thanks, Pam.
I noticed one of the comments, Kirstin, was about, I thought that it would be a long day and hard to pay attention. And I know I've been involved, but I found everything really interesting, and I wanted to get back before the break time was over. So I made sure I was here. Yeah, I saw somebody in the comments said it was even better than in person, which is like,
cool.
Wow.
I'm trying to find, yes, I saw a comment there that I'm now trying to find, but there's so many people commenting, it's hard to sort of capture the, thanks Kirstin and all the panelists and contributors to make the day informative. Great to see so many people here. Hopefully this will lead to positive workplaces. Yes, that's awesome, thank you. I think somebody was unmuted and going to share something.
I was just going to share from Heather, Veterans Affairs there. She said, Kirstin and I enjoyed the day and appreciated the frequent breaks considering it was a full day online. Also like that everything started and ended on time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's one of my superpowers. I don't know if it's a superpower, but it's definitely something that I like to do, is make sure that we finish, that we start on time and end on time. I like that consistency, and maybe that's just another best practice to take back to, the idea of collaborative workplace and building trust is when meetings are well run, people have more energy to engage in them, I think. From Kim, thank you. The movement between speakers along with the option of interactive input kept things engaging. Thank you, Kim. Anne-Marie, wonderful day, great format, some great information. Thank you. Awesome. So we're seeing some people we've had a great day. We've had it's been a long day. I don't know. It's different on this side, right? Because you're like, gotta go. But I'm going to hang out here for another couple of minutes. If anyone has any questions that they want me to speak to or comments that they want to make. Thank you, Karen, for that nice comment. Maybe not a question you can answer, but I've always wondered how to successfully collaborate when political bureaucracy interferes with being transparent. So one of the things that I think about is that, sometimes collaboration isn't appropriate, right? But I think we can also collaborate in a box. Like there may be things that we can't collaborate on, right? Like maybe it's, we can't share this information, but maybe it's just saying, we can't share this information, but here's what we can work on together, right? So, I think probably a lot of people that work within government and within organizations where maybe there's some sensitive information, you probably understand that there are some certain things that maybe aren't within the ability or mandate of your supervisor or the powers that be to share. But sometimes even just saying, there are some things that we can't share, but here are some things that we can work on together. So I do think, though I say there's 5 styles of conflict solving, you can combine some of them as well. So I do think, that there are times where collaborating within those parameters or within that box can be at least better than, maybe competition or whatever. Awesome. Thanks for that question. So we have another few minutes. If anyone has anything else, any other comments, any other reflections or questions from Brenda. Thanks, Kirstin, all the participants. Thank you, Brenda, for coming and for supporting your staff to participate in the course. So staff members often require different levels of engagement. How do we keep it fair when one needs so much more support? Yeah, so that can be a challenge, right? So when we talk about how do you support individuals to come in health to the collaboration, sometimes that can be a challenge, right? So there are times where maybe it's not about collaboration, maybe there's actually accommodation, right? So I've heard, people have probably heard the saying, we're in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. And Brenda just said, fair does not always mean equal, right? So different people will have different needs. And there are times where accommodation is exactly the right thing to do. And, and I think we've been hearing a lot of that in the last week or so around, around the Black Lives Matter, and if there's a house on fire, that's the house we want to pay attention to. We're not going to spray water all over all the houses, right? The ones that aren't on fire. And sometimes there are going to be people in your house or in your team that are on fire. And so how do you think about pulling everybody into that, like engaging everybody in that discussion, perhaps? Because what the person had, the question that was there, how do we keep it fair when one needs so much more support? How do you keep those other people engaged if that support that they need is chronic rather than sort of immediate, like in the immediate, and it may be that you need to do something other than collaboration in that case. But like Brenda said, fair does not always mean equal, but how do you get everybody on board? And I do think to agree with that, right? And to understand, I think it is about transparency when you can. Sometimes you can't be transparent about what people are experiencing, but as much as you can, being transparent and having the conversations, and collaborating to come up with how do we take care of everyone's needs when we know that they are different needs, and maybe some people have more need right now than others, or maybe it's chronic. And if it's chronic, well, then maybe it's a whole other discussion. So cool. So we are got another 5 minutes. So from Rhonda, great use of Zoom with breakout rooms and surveys, huge skill on its own. Yeah. A lot of the times when we have large groups, Zoom webinar is something that people have been using because you can have, sort of the panelists, and but it's not very active, so using Zoom meetings is another thing that I would say is a best practice when we're talking about engaging and collaborating online, because of the breakout rooms, because of, I think maybe that really provides more of an opportunity for connecting, especially with a really large group. So the more you can do to engage people in your online meetings, I think the better. I have been teaching online for about 5 years, but I'm not going to say that I am a super expert person in terms of online. I am an extrovert. I like to be in front of people. I like to be interacting in person in the same room, and I can't wait till we do that again. But there are some lovely things that we can do online. And I've actually been taking some training myself around how do we have more engaging online meetings. So and if anybody wants some recommendations, Amy Clymer is the person that I've taken a course from, and she's fantastic. She has a course coming up, I think, just a short course, but she's got some great ideas about how to be more engaging with your meetings. Amy Clymer, and it's Climer. Any other final thoughts, final comments in the last 2 minutes that we have? Seeing none, I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to say we're done. I really appreciate everybody's participation, everybody's patience. We've all had to have a lot of patience with online and technology and the internet and all the things. So just really appreciate that again today. And thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the sun if it's sunny where you are. And we'll send out, look in your inbox. We've got a lot of stuff to send you, follow up from the conference, the PowerPoints, all the Google Docs, all that stuff. So watch that, and you'll see that coming in the next, over the next week. So thanks, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Tanya. Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Kim. Bye, Nikki. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Thanks, everybody.